Hello friends, welcome back. So in this session we will learn web buds. So what is web buds? So before to learn Java servlets, we need to know some web related terminologies or web related components. So that is nothing but web buds. So here we will learn about the following web buds or following component that is related to internet or web application. So first one is web server or application server, and the next will be web container, and next will be web client or web browser, then HTTP protocol, then TCP IP, DNS, web technologies, web frameworks, HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So all those we will learn in today's session. So first one is web server or application server. So what is web server or application server? A web server is nothing but an application that perform the following task. What are those tasks? Receive HTTP request from web client. We will see what is web client. So web server will receive HTTP request from web client and then process the HTTP request. First it will read the HTTP request, then it will process the HTTP request with the help of web container. So we will see this also, what is web container, and we will see what is web client. Okay, and then after processing the HTTP request with the help of web container, web server will send the response back to the web client. Means from web client, web server will take HTTP request, then HTTP request your web server will will process with the help of web container, and then after that your web server will send the response back to the web client only. Okay, so following are the web server like Apache, PWS, IIAS. Apache is for Java, PWS is for ASP.NET and Internet Information Server is also for ASP.NET. Okay, we can also use application server to process our web application also. Means these feature also we can do with the help of application server also. That is WebLogic, WebSphere, Wildfly or JBoss or JRun. You can use any of them. Here is some little bit difference between web server and application server that we will see here. So deliver static contents. Web server only static contents. We have already seen two types of web application: static web application and dynamic web application. Static means the content will remain same for all the user, but application server can deliver dynamic content also. Content is delivered using HTTP protocol only, and this provide business logic business logic to application program using several protocol including HTTP also. Server only web based application serves only web based application, can serve enterprise application also. No support for multi-threading. Yes, in this one multi-threading is supported. In web server HTML and HTTP protocol are used, while in this one GUI as well as HTTP, RPC, RMI protocol are also used. So that is the difference between web server and application server. Later on we will get a clear picture about that one also. Okay, so here if you see, web server process the HTTP request with the help of web container. So what is web container? A web container is nothing but it is also a program that is responsible for managing the life cycle of server. That is responsible, or we can say that web container is an application that task is to execute the life cycle of server. Servlet. life cycle of servlet or GSP. Servlet and GSP, that both that two are different technologies. We will see, first we will learn servlet, then we will learn GSP, that we will see. So we can say that what is web container? A web container is nothing but this is an application or this is a program that is responsible for managing the life cycle of a servlet or GSP. Okay, that is web container. It means if you see the second point of web server, it says process the HTTP request with the help of web container. It means the code that process the HTTP request has to be written in form of servlet, or we can say that a servlet that process the HTTP request. A servlet is a component that process the HTTP request, and web server use servlet to process the HTTP request. Okay, fine. And web container provide the following service. What are those service? Low level service and middle level service. What is low level? Low level service like input output stream, like it is reading the data from stream. Means stream, what is stream? Stream is one sequence of data from client to server, that is stream. So this service will be provided by web container only. Input output stream. Threading, if more user are accessing the servlet or more user are accessing the web server, then server container will give threading, means different threads it will generate to process the request. Networking, it will also manage the networking, means on port number, on which network your machine is connected, what is the IP address of that one. So all those it will handle. Next one, middle level services. What is middle level services? Like resource management, life cycle management. Resource management means what? In your web application, so many resources will be there. There may be view files like HTML or JSP, or there may be JavaScript or CSS or any other icon file or SVG file, or images, videos, audio, anything. N number of resources will be there. So web container will manage all those also. Life cycle management. Life cycle means the life cycle of servlet it will manage, and declarative security management. So all these features or all these services your web container is providing. After that one, what is pending? Your job is pending. Your job means your business logic of the application is pending, that developer has to develop. That is a high level service. High level service we have to develop, means what is our requirement? Suppose our requirement is to save a form of registration of what? Registration of user or registration of student, employee, anything. So consider registration of a student of an university. Then you are manually filling a form and then you are submitting. Instead of that one, what you can do? You can design a form. That form you can submit to the server and data will be saved in your database. So that is called high level services. That high level service is called business logic of the application that developer has to develop. So that is called web container. Web container is nothing but an application or a program that is responsible or that task is to manage the life cycle of servlet or GSP. It gives the low level service and middle level service, and high level services we have to develop or developer has to develop. That is web container. Next one is a web client. If you see the first point and last point of web server, then you see here we are talking about web client. Web server receive HTTP request from web client and send response to web client. So what is web client? What is web client? A web client is also an application that send the request and show the response. Simple. So web browser is also a type of a client that send the request and render the response of a web server. Followings are the web browser like Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari, Opera, Internet Explorer, and this one more is there. So that is a web client or web browser. Web browser is a type of web client. Other than web browser, so many type of client can be there. Suppose your Postman, that is also a tool, or that is also API management applications. You can check your API using Postman. That is also a type of client only. Or you can use any other custom inbuilt Java client, that also you can use to send the request and get the response. So that is called a client. But browser and client has a some difference, because web browser is a type of a client. Client can be any type of client, like that can be a Java HTTP client, that you can use Java code to send a request and response, that is also fine. Or you can use an inbuilt tool, or you can use any of the web browser also. So that is a type of a client, web browser. Okay, so you may understand this first, second and third point. Web client will send a request in form of HTTP, or you can say web client send HTTP request that is received by web server, and web server process the HTTP request with the help of web container, and after processing, web server send the response to web client. Okay, next one is HTTP protocol. Now what is HTTP protocol? This is an hypertext transfer protocol that can be used to send the request. www is about communication between client and server. We can use www, World Wide Web. This is representing internet. www, that is used to communicate between the web client and server. Communication between client computer and web server is done by sending HTTP request and receiving HTTP response. So HTTP is nothing but an hypertext transfer protocol that can be used or that is used to send the HTTP request over the internet from client to server, and HTTP response is used to get the response from the server to client. World Wide Web communication. The World Wide Web is about communication between the web client and server. Clients are often a browser like Chrome, Edge, Safari, but they can be any types of program or device also. Okay, and server are most often computer in a cloud. There is nothing is cloud, that is someone else computer only. We can say, some people are thinking if they say cloud, then they will think they will see in the sky the cloud, that is cloud. No, it is not that cloud. That is nothing but as someone else computer only. That's it, that is a cloud. HTTP request and response. What is HTTP request and response? Communication between client and server is done by request and responses. A client is nothing but a browser, send an HTTP request, a web server receive the request, the server run an application to process the request, and server return HTTP response, that is nothing but output to the browser, and the client or browser receive the response and render the response. HTTP request cycle. What is HTTP request cycle? Typically HTTP request response cycle, the browser request an HTML page or JSP page, that is HTML. JSP will also be nothing but JSP will run in server only. After that only this will be converted to HTML only. So the browser request an HTML page, the server return an HTML file. Simple. Browsers request for HTML page, servers return an HTML file. The browser request a style sheet, server return a style sheet. The browser request for JPG image, server will return that JPG file also. The browser request for JavaScript code, server will return JavaScript code. Browser request data, the server return data in form of XML or JSON. So that is the life cycle. Okay, next one is TCP IP. What is TCP? TCP is nothing but transmission control protocol, and IP stands for internet protocol, that can be used to send the data in form of bits. How? Internet protocol is responsible to carry the data. Internet protocol is responsible only to carry the data from the web client to web server. We have seen what is web client, what is web server, to the web server, and vice versa. That can be vice versa. Means internet protocol is also used to carry the data from the server to client also, because at the when request is being sent to server, it means the data is flowing from the data is flowing from client to web server, and after processing the request, the data is being flowing from web server to web client. That can be vice versa. And TCP or transmission control protocol sits on the top of internet protocol and monitor the data transfer. Simple. That is used to monitor the data transfer. Okay. Next one is a domain name server. What is domain naming server? Simply, if you see youtube.com, this name is very convenient for user to remember. You can very easily remember youtube.com, facebook.com, google.com, or any other like W3 schools, india.gov.in, very easy. So like that, any domain that you give very uniquely and short, so that people can easily remember those, and they can reach to the particular location and to particular website easily. Instead of that one, if you type IP address like 1.2.3.4:8080, then that will be very difficult. It will be very difficult. So that machine IP will be replaced with the domain name. So we can say that domain name service is a registry where domain names will be binded to the IP address. Very simple. Okay, next one is web technology. So what are web technologies that we are using in Java? See, in Java there is no other technology that can perform client server architecture, or we can say that there is no technology in Java that can be used to develop the web application instead of servlets. So we can say servlet is only one technology in Java that can be used to develop the web application. Even if you are using a Spring, Struts, Spring MVC, or any other framework that is internally using servlets only, because servlet is the core API that can be used to develop the web application. And JSP, if you are using servlet, then definitely you have to use JSP, because if you want to make your website as a dynamic, then definitely you have to use JSP, because there is no other technology that you can use to create a dynamic web application in Java. So what are the web technologies in Java available to develop a web application? Servlet and JSPs are called web technologies in Java. If you are using other programming language like .NET, C, C++, then you have to go with the other approaches, because they have given some other technology. But in Java, these two technologies are there. Okay, what is web frameworks? Frameworks are Struts, JSF, Spring MVC are the web framework. So what is framework? See, framework is nothing but an API only that helps you to develop the application very fastly, because they are following some design patterns. If we are developing application using servlets or JSP, that is also fine, we can do that one. But while developing application using servlets and JSP, we have to follow some design pattern. Then only our application and code will be clean, and that meets the standard format of a coding. Then only it will be considered as a good practice as a programmer. But it will be very difficult sometime. So in that case, we can go with the frameworks. even framework is internally using servlets and JSP only, no. So framework is nothing but an API that makes the development of a developer easy, and that implement some design patterns to develop the application. Simple. So that is a struts is the old one. Now Spring MVC is there in use, because Spring MVC is very much a rich API, and that is giving very much security support, and so much it is giving. So that's why Spring is more stronger than struts. Struts is old one, and you can say it's a deprecated, no one is using, and we will not see struts also, we will not see JSF also, we will learn Spring MVC only. Okay, so that are the web framework. Next one is HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So what is HTML, CSS and JavaScript? See, this HTML, CSS and JavaScript is a separate course. We will learn this in some separate course, because that is not very much small topic that we can discuss here, but that is related to web technologies only. So overview we are learning here. Anyhow, you no need to worry, we will learn this also. So what is HTML? HTML is nothing but a hypertext markup language that can be used to develop the web pages. HTML is a standard markup language for creating web pages. HTML describes the structure of web pages. Yes, HTML consists of a series of elements, and HTML elements tell the browser how to display the content. Simply, you can say that to develop any UI, we have to use HTML. We can say that to develop any UI, suppose if I open W3 school, so this is W3 school, so this is nothing but a web page, HTML web page. So this is, we can say, if I click here, it will go learn CSS, learn JavaScript, learn Python, learn SQL, learn PHP, jQuery, Java, C++, Bootstrap, any other programming language, anything you want to learn, you can learn. So here this is nothing but a UI. So this UI you can develop using HTML. That's it. And HTML elements tell browser how to display the component. You can modify that content and you can display accordingly. What is CSS? CSS is nothing but style sheet. CSS stands for cascading style sheet, that will used to define the style. Style means, suppose this is a button. If you see W3 school, this is a button. See, this is a button, this is button, this is button, and if I click here, this is drop down. Now this is a link, or you can say this is also button, type of button only. So this is also a button, this is also button, this is the button. See, now this button and this button is little bit different. So this is the meaning of a style. If we are giving the style, we can define the style for element, that is nothing but CSS. So CSS describe how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen, paper or on other media. CSS saves a lot of work. It can control the layout of multiple web pages all at once. External style sheets are stored in CSS files, and CSS styles we can add in three places. We can add into the HTML element also itself, that is called inline, and we can add internal CSS inside HTML. In separate code we can add CSS, and we can add CSS into external any .css file. That is up to our choice, however we want to go. Okay, next one is JavaScript. This is nothing but a programming language, same like C or C++ and Java or Python, but this is a scriptive language. Scriptive means that will run in your browser only. But since for JavaScript some other compiler and other platform is also provided, like Node.js. Node.js is also there, that can execute the JavaScript code. now that is because Angular or React Native, React JS, to use to do to develop any application like Angular or Node, so we have to use Node.js, because Node.js will execute the JavaScript code, and your web browser can also execute the JavaScript code. So this is nothing but a scriptive language. So JavaScript is a programming language that allow you to implement complex things in web pages. Every time a web page does not a page does more than just sit there and display static information. For you to look at displaying timely content update, interactive map, animation like 2D, 3D graphics, scrolling video, junk box or more, you can bet that JavaScript is probably involved. To do any other dynamic operation, you can use JavaScript in your website. So that is the web buzz for before to start Java servlets. So these are the web pages. Okay, in the next session we will see environment setup for your Java servlet to get started with our course. Okay, so I hope you like this session. Please subscribe my channel and we will see you in the next session. Till that, bye bye and thanks for watching.